Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to NUTANIX Next on Tour Hong Kong. Welcome, everyone. Featuring One OS, one click, any cloud. This year, NUTANIX Next on Tour Hong Kong gathered leading vendors, solutions providers, and customers to explore how to successfully build the future of enterprise cloud. Without further ado, let's kick off today's event by give a warm welcome to Mr. Edward Young, Managing Director, Hong Kong and Taiwan.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome you all. Welcome to NUTANIX Next on Tour, the third of our largest annual event in Hong Kong. Thank you for your support. The first year we did this, we had about 100 attendees. Second year, about 300. This year, we're expecting 500. So thank you for your support. Today, this is about your experience. It is a day where the team of us and the team of our partners hopefully will prepare a day that is informative and productive for you. A day where you can imagine with us the next generation data center, a cloud that suits you, because there is a lot of freedom of choice. It is your cloud. We hopefully all stand by, our team and our partner team, looking forward to talk to you and to hear your feedback on how we can do better in your journey and to better assist. Without further ado, I think it is an appropriate time also to tell you more about the day and our NUTANIX reasons. This is the time for us to present to you our Senior VP of APJ, Mr. Matt Young.
Good morning. How are y'all doing? Good, good. Thank you, and welcome to .next Hong Kong. That's the city we're in today, Hong Kong. All right. It was Singapore yesterday. So .next Hong Kong 2017, we're bringing it to you, right? We have our annual event every year. We had it back in June in Washington, D.C. It was our third annual event where we had over 4,000 attendees. We all know you can't travel to Washington, D.C., or you don't want to travel to Washington, D.C. and hang out with President Trump, right? So we brought it to you. But again, I think in Washington, D.C., it was important to, kind of the crowd that we got, the people that we had on stage with Diraj, our CEO. We had Bill McDermott, who's the CEO of SAP, on stage. And I don't know if you guys are aware or not, but business critical applications like SAP are, a significant part of our business right now. We have customers like NTT, Kellogg's running SAP, some local customers as well, which we'll talk about later today. But also the Google partnership, and we had Diane Green, who runs the Google Cloud platform for Google, on stage. She was the former VMware CEO as well. So again, we had some pretty heavy hitters there. We all understand you can't go to that, so we want to bring that to you today and make sure we address any questions, like Edward said, so that when you leave today, you understand where NUTANIX has been, but more importantly, where we're going. So it's been a wild and crazy year indeed, right? We went public at the end of September last year on the NASDAQ, and we have, I think the market cap today is a little bit over $4 billion, right? On top of that, Gartner continues to name us as a leader in their quadrant for the third year in a row. And again, we're very proud for our NPS score to be in the 90s. And we're going to talk more, you're going to hear more and more about this today. But again, the Net Promoter Score is essentially, would you recommend this product to your best friend? And the scale goes from 100 all the way down to negative 100. And our competitors are typically around 30. So we put a tremendous amount of focus on support to make sure that the customer experience is fantastic, or as our CEO Diraj says, delightful. All right. So from a growth perspective, last quarter we exited with almost 3,000 employees, over 7,000 customers, and we're shipping to well over 100 countries around the world. On top of that, we're seeing tremendous growth through the Global 2000, close to 600 customers using NUTANIX. And again, today we're going to go into more and more detail how our customers are using our platform to make their infrastructure invisible. So some of the customers, you can see some of the global customers that are using NUTANIX, but obviously there's local customers like PCCW who are running their infrastructure on our hypervisor, AHV, which you're going to hear about today. We also have Regina, Regina Miracle, who is essentially the Victoria's Secret, if you will. They OEM the clothes that Victoria's Secret uses, and they're running their infrastructure on SAP as well. But obviously a lot more local customers. We have close to 100 customers here in Hong Kong today, and so the growth has been pretty significant. And so again, today you're going to hear from those customers. You're going to hear from NUTANIX employees, and let you know how they're using NUTANIX as it pertains to their data center. So the challenge ahead is not about building a better, faster, cheaper mousetrap, right? It's about taking the best bits of VMware, the best bits of AWS, the best bits of a three-tier architecture, and really addressing what this new problem statement is, right? And the new problem statement is it's not a single cloud anymore, right? You've got the public cloud, you've got the private cloud, and then you have the bleeding edge cloud distributed out with IoT devices, robo, things like that, right? So it's becoming much more complex. Even as I think companies figure out you can't put all your workloads into the public cloud, right? If the workloads are predictable, and the majority of the workloads are predictable, it makes sense to put it into the private cloud. So the way NUTANIX first addressed this was we went out and we created the hyper-converged infrastructure category, right? When we set out 8 years ago, we took storage and compute and virtualization, put it all into one, and gave you HCI, all right? That's been a fantastic Act 1. Last year we had over $1 billion in billings, right? But it's now looking, we have to move to Act 2, right? As we move to Act 2, you have to be able to manage these clouds, right? You have to be able to have your app automation and orchestration, right? And this is what NUTANIX does, is we're adding this now in our Act 2 so that you, as your data center operators, can focus more on the applications, right? Not just the VMs like you did in the past. So obviously, there's a lot of challenges in delivering this consistent experience across these multiple clouds, right? You have different technology stacks, you have different fragmented management silos, and then on top of it, you have different consumption models. So what we're going to tell you today is how you can use NUTANIX to address this across the board. So today's lineup, as I said, we have a variety of speakers from NUTANIX, from our alliance partners, and as well as our customers, so that you can hear how they're using NUTANIX. Because I could stand up here all day and tell you how great NUTANIX is, but at the end of the day, we want you to hear from customers how they're using it in a real-life environment. So again, here's the agenda for the day. As Edward said, let's make sure everybody gets any and all questions answered before you leave today, because we want to bring you into the NUTANIX family. So finally, with that, thank you again to all our partners who have sponsored us. This wouldn't be possible without their sponsorship. So again, we look forward to talking to you. Thank you again for getting out of bed early in Hong Kong. I know a 9 a.m. start is tough in Hong Kong, but we look forward to spending the day with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you. Today, we're honored to have Mr. Satish Nair, the president of NUTANIX, to join us today. And he has traveled a long way from San Jose headquarters to meet the IT professionals and the executives here in Hong Kong and Asia Pacific. So let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Satish Nair, the president of NUTANIX.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Paddy. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that you have probably been to a lot of these type of conferences. And what do you expect in conferences like this? You hear vendors talk about the boxes, the product, and probably talk about competition a bit. We are trying to do things a little differently. We want to facilitate a conversation between you and our existing customers and our prospects. But in the process, we also want to talk a bit about where the industry is going. Not just NUTANIX, like what we are doing, which you will hear, but I think it is also important to share what we see in the industry, what's happening, where things are. Because in the last 8 years, there are a few things that we have done that now gives us the chance, a shot at defining the future. And that doesn't mean that we get to do it, but we have a shot at doing it. So let me take the next half an hour to share where we see the biggest trends are going towards when it comes to IT, and where NUTANIX sees an opportunity to make a difference. The title of my slide, as you can see, is Learning Never Stops. Learning and growing never stops. In this industry, if you stop growing, you start dying. It's as simple as that. Nothing that we do is even remotely possible if not for the delight that we are able to deliver to our customers. And when I say delight, look, I think when you open that box of an iPhone, when you open any of the new modern handphone devices, when you open that packaging, you feel that delight. Because there is attention that they've paid to it, making sure that from the very first moment you experience the product, there has to be a delight. NUTANIX, the Net Promoter Score is 92. Like Matt said, it is an astronomical number when you think about it. But having said that, this is not by accident. This is because we believe that to deliver superior customer support experience, you have to have good product, good people, good processes, good tools, good analytics, all of those things. When we started with around 2,000 or so customers, our customer support, the NPS score was around 80s. But as we added more customers, we were able to increase that. Hopefully, you will keep us honest. As we are actually getting bigger and growing faster, we want to make sure that we don't take this for granted. That's why we're putting it up there, because next year when we come, and if this thing is significantly down, it's Edward's fault, okay? Now, I want to start by talking about this slide. This was by Goldman Sachs, and Goldman Sachs said NUTANIX is a once-in-a-decade infrastructure story. Do I know that to be true? Who knows? I don't know. I don't predict the future. But it's a pretty good slide because Goldman is a great company. They said it, I put it out there. Now the question is though, to me this is more about whether we are a story or not. We have a shot at building a company that lasts the next 10 plus years. Because things are changing so fast, it's almost impossible to say what the next 10 years are going to look like. I don't even know what the next 2 years are going to look like. Because things are changing so fast. But within that change, is there an opportunity? And as scary as change is sometimes, the biggest opportunity lies right in the middle of it, right? I'll start defining that with this slide. This is a billboard in US for hospitals. Like I don't know if in Hong Kong hospitals advertise their services, but in US everything is up for grab. They will advertise the medicines, pharmaceuticals and hospitals. And as you can tell, healthcare should be about people. It's about a doctor taking care of a patient. And come to my hospital, good doctors, good nurses, good hospital. That's what it should be about, isn't it? Healthcare is about taking care of people. But here's the thing, this is an older billboard. A new billboard looks something like this. It says, feel better sooner, with the ER being the highlight. But what is more interesting is this, average wait time is 4 minutes. Here's the difference. In the previous slide, what you saw is about doctors. This was made possible by the professionals who take care of you. This one is all about IT. If this hospital can promise you that you will get to see a doctor within 4 minutes, it's almost all done because of something that IT did. IT is making it possible for you to see that doctor within 4 minutes because it's about EMR, it's about EHR, it's about PACS, it's about making sure that the insurance information is already there as you're walking in. Maybe there's a bit of IoT, wearables, all of those things are part of it. A CIO is in the middle of enabling business and touching the customer. Gone are the days where CIOs used to be, the IT team used to be in the back of your business. They were sitting in the darkest corners, no one talks to them, they just feed them once in a while. Right? It used to be that, what's your responsibility? I did DR testing this weekend, fantastic. Today if you come back and say, I enabled DR, I changed my IOPS, I did DR testing, somebody might pat you in the back, but in reality it didn't matter because it should be about touching the business. It should be about making a difference for their customers. I can give you any number of examples. Think about how Tencent entered the Chinese market with WeBank. It's a social media company, WeChat, but they used their knowledge of the consumer's behavior, spending behavior, that they could gather based on years of WeChat usage to deliver financial services as an auxiliary service of a technology company. Or in other words, Tencent became a bank, but primarily they are a technology company. It doesn't matter whether you are in a healthcare business or exploration of oil, usually what is transforming itself is that a technology company happened to be in oil exploration. Technology company happened to be in healthcare. Technology company happened to be in banking. So the question is, if the world is changing like this, the world is moving to a place where everything is driven by technology and IT is supposed to reach out and touch the customer, is IT going to get double the budget and double the people and double the time to do all of that? Probably not. In fact, you might get half of everything. The question is, if you only have the same time or less time and less budget and less people, how do you do all of that and still take care of your customers and make a difference for your business? The answer is, it is impossible unless you stop doing something. The question is, what will you stop doing? This is the context within which, when we started NUTANIX, we started thinking about what the future will look like. And just like every book, when you read it, there are chapters. If you look at the last 10, 15 years and what happened in the industry, there are a few chapters that I'd like to highlight. The first one is 2001, when Google came out. When Google came out, in our mind, it became the first software company that looked at hardware and infrastructure and said, you know what, that needs to change. Infrastructure should be turned into software. Software defined everything. Now that idea is now sort of common, right? Your Walkman became an app, your calculator is an app, Pretty much every device that you use in your consumer life is an app, because Samsung or Huawei or HTC or Apple turned that into an app. But from an enterprise data center point of view, Google probably the first company that took the infrastructure and turned that into an app. The second one, the ideas that Google built, it was picked up by Amazon, and in 2006 they built Dynamo database, EC2, S3 and other stuff, but more importantly they changed the consumption model. For the first time, enterprise customers were told computing can be a utility. You don't really have to own data centers. Consume just like you consume power. You use more, you pay more. If you use less, you pay less. Number 3, delight. Remember, enterprise customers were not expected to have fun at their job. They come to work in IT, the early morning there is calls saying, I don't have space, my file system is corrupt, it's not performing. And you are not supposed to have fun. You are supposed to go there and edit files and remove configs and get yelled at. That's how life used to be. Let me ask you a simple question. How many of you have at least once in your life spent time defragmenting a Windows file system? I know you're probably embarrassed to admit it, but I've done it. I'm sure some of you have done it, right? You went to your accessories, tools, system tools, clicked on defrag, and then waited for that entire screen to become green, and then you finish it, and then you find that in the middle there are 2 red. So if you're really OCD like me, you'll step back and do one more time. And then spend another 20 minutes, and somewhere in the end it becomes all green and you feel good about yourself. Your life is good, world is nice, sun is shining, birds are chirping, right? All nice. What did you just do? You spent 20 minutes of your life doing something called defragging to something called file system, which has nothing to do with taking care of your patients or your customer. The same people, if you ask them about the file system on your iPad, forget about defragging, they don't even know what the hell file system they have inside. They don't know the folder structure, they don't really care. What do they care about? Applications. I'm going to take a photo, I take a photo. Where do I save it? I'm going to create a folder? Heck no. It's there. It's in my albums. I'm going to search it, I'm going to find it, I'm going to share it, I'm going to do whatever I want. My life is about what I want to do as opposed to spending stuff on stuff that doesn't matter to me. It's not about the details, it's about the outcome. That is delight. Apple made it possible in a consumer life, but that same person will come to the data center at work and then start creating LUNs, creating formatting, backing up, DR, IOPS, multipathing, learning, firewalls, load balancers, 100 other things. It has to change. Delight. And in the last 4 years, a large number of things have changed, obviously. IoT, containers, how security has fundamentally changed and became a #1 thing in pretty much anything you do. Hybrid cloud, AI. This is just the last 10 years. Think about how many things have changed in the last 10 to 15 years. Now, it's not that things were not changing in our industry always changed things, but the difference is the rate of change and how fast things are being adopted is something that you've never seen before. Take, for example, a Hong Kong-based financial institution. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, if there's a new technology coming, guess what? A bank is not going to implement that anytime soon. I guarantee you. You will wait for Accenture or IBM or somebody to come and tell you 10 years later, okay, now it is good enough for you. That's when you do it. But the same bank probably has a microservices project today running. They're thinking about hybrid cloud. They are thinking about IoT and AI. Why? Because things are changing. If you don't adopt it, your competitors will do it, and they will change the game for their consumers, and your consumer will go there. We saw this. We saw this and said, you know what? We have a choice now. Customers are either going to have the ability to adopt the things that are coming and delight themselves and their consumers, or you will be stuck in a world where you don't have access to any of these. We saw that there's an opportunity for us to bridge this. The difference or the choice being like, do I want the control and the choice, or do I have the delight? Is it possible for us to deliver both? Can we deliver the delight of the new technologies securely, reliably to the enterprise customers who are stuck in the legacy world? Is it possible for us to bridge the gap? That was the sort of the existential question that we were trying to go with. Because gone are the days where computing happens in the data center. We are all sitting outside waiting for the results to come out. Computing has to happen where the data resides. Computing has to happen where the action is. If you're driving a car, if the car comes across automatically, let's say it's an autonomous car, and if a kid jumps in front of the car, the decision whether to stop this car or not should not be made in the cloud, it should be made right in the car. If you're an oil rig in the middle of the Pacific Ocean searching for oil, and if it happens to find an interesting area, it needs to make a decision whether should I be digging here or not. That drilling decision has to be made locally, so you can be more efficient, right? Computing happens everywhere. We decided to start this company in the core of the data center where we brought compute and storage together, but then a few years later, we expanded that to the remote data centers, brought them together from a management fabric. This year, we are expanding that to the edge. If your business is running in an oil rig in the middle of the ocean, I want you to do the computing there. If your business is about managing airplanes, let's do computing right there. If you are defense or financial industry and there are opportunities for you to improve the customer experience by bringing computing close to where the customers are living, do it. That's the idea of distributed computing becoming dispersed cloud. So this is sort of the blueprint of how we see the world is changing. Now, having said that though, it sounds good to take the data center and spread it to a lot of places. You have computing and data center running on a bridge, and it's on a barge, and it's running on an airplane, but that all sounds good. But what about management? I know that pretty much every conference you go to, you'll probably see a slide like this that says it's not about CapEx, it's all about OpEx. And as a vendor, you probably, vendors like we always come to you and say, look, you're going to pay a whole lot more to buy this, but you will save a whole lot more when you operate it. And some of you are already laughing because you've probably seen this movie before. And most of you don't even believe that. If Edward comes to you and says, NUTANIX is going to be more expensive, but you will save it on people, you will say, Edward, don't talk to me about people and OpEx, reduce your CapEx, right? Let me ask you this though, are we really calibrating the cost of OpEx properly? That is it just about the cost of operating? What about the hidden cost of complexity? If you are doing a migration, and if that project didn't go well because someone clicked the wrong button, or the migration took 2 weeks instead of 3 days, and your customers are suffering, is it because you didn't plan properly or the system was too complex? If you are trying to do an upgrade and the upgrade failed halfway and then you have to revert back and it costs an extra 2 days of delay and your customers are unhappy, is that because your people were not smart enough or because the system was freaking too complex? Where is the cost of complexity? Where is the focus of simplifying things? Whose responsibility is it to simplify things? Is it that you need to hire PhDs who will never make a mistake? Or should the systems itself be simpler? Is it a good thing that Apple doesn't expose the file system where you have to go play around with files and config? Is it a good thing that you can focus on outcome? Complexity is the most expensive item in your budget that you often overlook. Complexity costs. Complexity kills. Complexity kills careers. It is high time that we start looking at complexity in a different way. So this is the place where I want to take a detour and talk about what's happening in the larger world of computing and how there is an opportunity for a company like NUTANIX to totally disrupt the realm of management and complexity when it comes to data center infrastructure. To make that story, Let me talk about these two games. I cannot use these slides in US because most people don't know what that game is on the right side. I'm assuming almost all of you know what that game is. How many of you here play Go or Weiqi? Only two? This is surprising to me. I think this is on the left side we have chess, on the right side we have Go. In this number 10 to the power of 120, this is a complex game. If you look at the number of options possible in a game of chess, it is 10 to the power of 120 approximately. Just to give you a context on how big that number is, if you take all the atoms that we are made of and take all the atoms in this room, in this country, every object in Hong Kong, every object in China, every object in all of the world, and then add it together, it's come approximately 10 to the power of 80. That gives you an idea how big that number is. That is how many options you can have when it comes to playing chess. In 1997, Deep Blue, IBM Deep Blue, the computer, beat the best player in the world. That gives you an idea how powerful the computing has become at that time. However, no one tried to beat the best Go player in the world for the next 20 years. For the next 20 years, Go was unbeaten, the leader. No computers could beat them. In 2017, for the first time, a machine beat the world champion. Now, why is that so special? It's because the number of options possible when it comes to Go is 10 to the power 716. That tells you, I mean, obviously that's an exponentially higher number. You can't even imagine how complex that game is if you really put them in a mathematical equation. It was not possible to beat a man, a woman, with a machine because how complex the computing algorithms had to be. We didn't have enough computing power to do it. And what changed and why this became possible is because we changed how we think about computing, how we change about intelligence. And it was about, we stopped telling machines how to play the game, and we evolved to telling machines how to think and learn and grow. You know the saying between give a man a fish or give a woman a fish, she will eat for a day, but if you teach her fishing, she will eat for her life. On the left side is how we sort of beat in chess. In chess, basically what Deep Blue did is looked at the next 6 steps in every option, in every move that Garry Kasparov was making, and then ran a probability analytics around all of those options and picked the best one. And then you run it. 6 steps was high enough to beat a man. But like I said, Go, you can't do that. In Go, we had to do something different. We went from brute force analytics to intelligent learning and machine learning. I want to talk about why that holds more future and more promise for the enterprise data center. To understand that, let's go a little bit of a detour into understanding what is intelligence, what is smartness, how do people think, how do people learn, how do people grow. So I put 3 pictures here. I think we can all agree in this room that a snail is not a smart animal, right? A snail is a snail. It's a snail, all it does is walk around, eat, and maybe poop. That's basically it. It doesn't do much more than that. Now, a horse, you can make an argument that is a significantly smarter animal, because a horse can go and look down on a cliff like this and say, you know what, I'm not going to go down. It knows. It doesn't know the theory of gravity or any of those sort of things, but it knows that if I fall down, I'm going to die. And it's not like it has fallen down many times and died and came back. It knows inherently in its brain that it is probably not a good idea for me to jump off this cliff. How does it know that? Right? Now, a 2-year-old kid is probably smarter than that horse because she knows that she can break an egg. And if that egg is broken, it actually will be, it changes shape and it's going to be, if I heat it up, it becomes solid. All that information she knows, even though she doesn't probably understand fluid dynamics. So on a spectrum, not so smart to really smart, let's say. What makes them smarter? And the simplest way you can look at do that is like the brain neurons. Let's look at how many neurons each one of these. Snail, as simple as it gets, 2. That's it apparently, just 2 neurons. What a life that must be. Don't have to think about anything. But again, there is a problem here because based on this, the world should be ruled by elephants, right? They seem to be significantly more smarter than humans. So it's not that simple. It's just not about the raw number of neurons. There should be something more to it. In the brain, we have the largest part of the brain is called cortex, where all the senses are activated. Cerebral cortex. Within that, there are multiple smaller pieces of it. And as you see this picture, the picture becomes a bit more clearer. In this picture, it is clear that as a percentage, as a ratio of the total number of neurons, we human beings, we have a whole lot more in the cortex. So this is interesting. So it's something to do with cortex where all the senses are being activated. That's where the intelligence is brewing. So let's take a little bit deeper and go into that cortex and see what happens there. We all know this. We learn through our 5 or 6 senses. But most importantly, we learn by listening. We learn by watching. We sometimes learn by smelling, not eat it, remember? Except stinky tofu, which I still like. Right? You think about all of these senses are going into the different parts of the cortex, the visual cortex, the auditory cortex, the somatosensory cortex, and we go. But what is interesting is that after the input goes into the brain, we do the most interesting thing, which is process them internally. So in the brain, if you were to simply define what learning is our ability to acquire knowledge, but most importantly, acquire and improve the knowledge. How do we improve the knowledge? We improve the knowledge by post-processing. We do that by thinking, right? We take that knowledge and we think and make it better. So give you an example like Isaac Newton sitting under a tree, an apple falls on his head. If it's me, I will curse first and eat the apple and I'm done. But Isaac Newton thinks and then discovers a whole lot of things about gravity. That process is interesting because that process is where things are getting interesting. That's thought. Thought is essentially neurons connecting and firing signals. And thought is the underpinning of everything that happens around intelligence. If you think about computing, where are we? So there was a study that was recently done, actually just last year it was published in University of Sussex. They actually took this little snail and then looked inside its brain with those 2 neurons, what does it do? And they found that it runs a simple subroutine. And the first one is it food? The second one, am I hungry? That's it. Very simple, peaceful existence. Is it food? No. Okay, I'll keep moving. Is it food? Yes. Am I hungry? Yes, I'll eat it. Apparently that's all it does. Simple subroutine, but that is sufficient for it to live its life. If you think about computing, we were pretty much doing the same thing because every piece of code you write is essentially a if-then loop, which is essentially what the snail does in its own processing. So the summary is, if you think about where we are, as a species, we have invented computing and evolved to a point where it basically gets to a snail's level. We still have a long way to go to catch up to where human beings are. The idea of neural networks and artificial intelligence and machine learning, these are not new concepts. In fact, this all started in 1940s. So it's been around for 40 plus 50 years. What changed in the last few years, in the last 4+ years, is that the advancement in computing technology when it comes to hardware, advancement when it comes to algorithms and processing powers have exponentially increased, and it's made it possible for us to really deliver value over artificial neural networks. Google, for example, this year announced what they call Cloud TPU, Cloud-Based Tensor Processing Unit, which allows you to process multiple billions of teraflops in a single card, and it's available on Google Cloud now, for example, right? Essentially what it does is, people talk about deep learning, right? Deep learning is how our brain works, in the sense that how the neurons are connected. If you look at artificial neural networks, the circles you see are artificial neurons. Each one of those neurons have a programmable set of values, but those values are not fed. Those values are trained by itself in an a priori way, with the input from the top one goes in there and comes as an output, and that becomes the input to the next layer. This level of deep programming that automatically runs, it allows the system to train itself and get better. Now there are different ways to do this, and the difference is with this approach, now we can start talking about both supervised and unsupervised learning. A supervised learning, for example, that's a horse. The small one is also a horse. You tell the machine. But in unsupervised mode, if it understands that this is a horse, it should figure out that the little one is also a pony. It's a horse. And that's possible because, like I said, it is training itself. This is the approach that allowed us to beat the world champion Kerjier on Go. A machine called AlphaGo played more than 30 million times in a 13-layer deep neural network that was built to learn, understand, and outplay that person and beat. Now that is why he's sitting like that, because he played 4 times and 4 times he lost. It is hard to sort of overestimate the importance of some of these sort of things happen in the last few years. Not because we could beat the man, that's interesting. We all feel good when the man is beaten, but more important because the applications of neural networks has fundamentally changed some of the fields of profession. For example, one of the most interesting parts of neural networks is, remember I talked about senses, we see, we listen, we smell, we touch. Seeing is an important one. So a part of the neural networks called artificial neural, one is called convolutional neural network, CNN, is about visual input. For example, this is the famous Michelangelo's painting in Sistine Chapel called Adam, God reaching out and touching the human being. This is a sort of like a pivotal painting around Renaissance era. When you look at this, as a human being, we see, we understand, we mean different things, we feel different things. If you put this in a convolutional neural network system, what happens? Someone did that. Google has a system called Deep Dream, and when you feed this, the system will see and evaluate things and understand things differently. So for example, if you're looking up in the sky and you happen to see a cloud, and the cloud looks like a dog, is that a dog? As a human being, we know that's not a dog. But will the computer know? This is what happened when someone fed that picture to Deep Dream. As you can see here, you can see various animals. There are different things that is showing up. Now this is interesting, and you might be thinking, what the hell does this do to with computing or NUTANIX or anything like that? The point is, these sort of changes are evolving into different sectors. For example, the ability to see and interpret and understand and think probably makes it possible for us to do interesting things when it comes to security. As an example, it can tell the difference between a statue and a person because it is learning and improving. But is it possible for us to also understand the feeling of the person? Is it possible for the system to look at someone's face and say this person is angry, this person is under stress, this person is happy? Answer is probably, because like I said, it can learn what a human being looks like when he or she is happy. Or another use case is in medical science, pathology. For example, pathology is an area where human beings looks at a picture through a microscope and makes all sort of deductions. Is it a cancer cell? Is it a bacteria? Is it a virus? What is it doing? Good, bad? Now, we are good at it. We can look at it and make all sort of decisions based on our experience, but imagine you take this picture and divide that into billions of pixels, and the system learns the difference in each one of those pixels and comes back and say, you know what, that's a cancer cell. And that's what is happening today. In fact, in some of these computing experiments, they are seeing that the results are almost 7 to 8 times better than what an experienced human being will do in pathology, in radiology and things like that. So lots of things are happening. What about computing? How does it apply? In computing, if you were to roll back the last 50 years, whether it's a mainframe or a SAN or a NAS, not much has changed in terms of how we interact with the system. For example, in the old days, there used to be a large computer and we have an IT group that is responsible for managing it. That's how it was done, isn't it? What changed? In the last few years, those large monolithic systems, whether it's a storage system or a mainframe, exploded and sharded into smaller pieces in terms of scale out distributed computing. So instead of one mainframe, you may have 10,000 high performance computing systems. Instead of one SAN, you may have 500 nodes running in hyper-converged mode. Whether you believe in Nutanix or in Nutanix customer or not, this is where the world is going. We are not going to go back to single monolithic machines. But did we change how we interact with the system? Did we change the organizations around it? The answer is no. Instead of evolving with how the computing is changing and how we manage it, we still have the same structure. People managing machines. Are we really built as a species to manage 10,000 systems? No. We are not supposed to be doing a routine task around 10,000 systems. We are supposed to be managing that monolithic, yes. How do we imagine a future where how we interact with the system, how the organizations are built around it should also be evolving? And in that context, we think there's an opportunity to change and split it into two different sections. Let a group of systems manage the large-scale distributed cluster through a machine-to-machine interface. Let us as humans interact with the machines that are managing the machines. Let the machines learn, improve in how it manages things. I'll give you a few examples. Think of things like planning. If I'm a large company and I'm hiring 100 people every month, are we human beings better in predicting that, or the systems are better at looking at the last 100 people, how they did? What sort of use cases are they using? How much compute, how much storage, how much memory, when are they using it, daytime, nighttime, and then automatically manage the load and predict when you run out of capacity and by when and what I should be doing. Is it possible for me to run a database job in the daytime and a big data job in the nighttime? It is absolutely better for a machine to do that if it is capable of learning, adopting and evolving. Is it better for system to figure out where it should place a use case? Is it possible for me to place that use case on this node where I have more memory versus this node that has more storage? Or should I be moving it at 10 o'clock Friday morning versus 8 o'clock Saturday morning? Again, decisions that can be made by systems better than human beings because it's on the job every second of every day. So we absolutely see that there is a use case for APIs that are driven machines to machine. Now the difference is, what does human being do? Do we still tell the machines what to do, or do we change that to a different level? Should we change that to an intent level conversation? That is, instead of saying expand the system, can we say never run out of capacity, never run out more than 95% of space? Tell me before I do this. Is it possible for us to have those sort of natural language conversation with the system that are managing the systems, with the intent, and let the systems figure out how to optimally do that on large scale of cluster? This is an essential conversation that includes, I put a question mark around emotions. It is a little bit of a stretch, but think about it. If someone is drunk and coming in and saying delete everything, Should the system listen that, or should it say, you know what, this person doesn't look happy, this person looked drunk. So even though he asked me to delete everything, I'm not going to act on it immediately. There are a lot of use cases. Some of them sounds crazy, but as you start thinking, how do you manage thousands of systems and maybe hundreds of thousands of sensors in the world of IoT, you have to start thinking how we interact with those systems, how we manage, how we optimize. In NUTANIX, at NUTANIX we've been thinking about this, and we started this conversation with the HCI, not because we thought compute and storage needs to come together, that's the end of it. It's because we knew that without solving the storage problem, you can never solve anything else. That is the biggest boat anchor that was holding everything back. We built a metadata structure, and there are two things I'll point out. Number one, it is absolutely scale out, which means I can move things back and forth. It can go from Hong Kong to Shanghai, Shanghai to Singapore, and come back. Second, every piece of data that we are writing has built-in analytics. So yes, if you are thinking about hyperconverged, NUTANIX has best foundation, very differentiated, all of that, but that's just a foundation. 3 years ago, we started working on Acropolis, and Acropolis to us is not a hypervisor. Some people think, oh, VMware is expensive, I'll go to Acropolis. You're welcome to do that, but it's much more than that. But in the new world, you have to think about VMs and containers, because some of the stuff that I just talked about for scale-out architecture, microservices and containers are essential. How do you deliver backup and replication and all the data protection for containers? How do we deliver always-on security that travels with the applications wherever it's running? How do we deliver cloud vMotion? These are all interesting questions to ask, and that's why we built a new and modern virtualization fabric for a hybrid cloud world. That is what Acropolis is about. Prism is where all of these are coming together. I'll highlight a couple of things. Number one, like I talked about, let the systems manage the systems through machine learning. Let the human being interact with that through natural language, intentful conversations. Have everything run through APIs. And these two are important, apps and self-service. Let us not have the human being sit in between application and infrastructure. Let the application automatically manage the infrastructure, and let the end users have access to application through self-service portals. So IT is not sitting in between all of this. IT is now elevated to a point where they can start looking at the business outcome. And this not just for what's on-prem, but also do it for things that you may not own. Do it for public cloud resources. Do it for hybrid cloud resources. That's why NUTANIX announced our entry into public cloud services called Xi in US only with the support of Google. So Google and NUTANIX are partnering to deliver Xi cloud services that will truly deliver public cloud through services like DR and others. But can you also bring in public cloud vendors like Amazon, Azure, and Google into the same picture, where we use the available APIs to deliver a single, seamless management experience? And last, deliver that as infrastructure that you can own or rent. Provide choices. Now I know that in this room you are probably thinking, that all sounds good, but I just want to deliver VDI. I just want to get my 3-tier architecture and go to NUTANIX. What the hell did Sudhesh just talk about last half an hour? None of this mean anything to me. I want you to know that while I talk about the future, I'm not here to talk about a bunch of things that you don't have access to. There is a roadmap. There is a step-by-step crawl, walk, run that you can do. Let me just quickly walk through this. If you are not experienced NUTANIX at all, if you have never experienced NUTANIX, and you're thinking about how do I get started, you can absolutely go from your 3-tier architecture to NUTANIX without changing your data protection or application or management structure. If you have went to NUTANIX and you're still with VMware, VMware works really well on NUTANIX, but it's also time to experience what AHV and Acropolis can do for you. It's included in the system. If you have done that, elevate your IT and your end users to a self-service driven app-based infrastructure management. It's called CALM. Anjan and the team will actually do demo and show you how it all works. If you have done that for data centers, expand that to remote offices. And if you have done remote offices, expand that to the edge. Essentially bring your public, private, all IoT, edge device, all of them into the same management structure that allows you to deliver the sort of flexibility and agility that your customers are looking for. Your customers are not looking to see whether your infrastructure is running on all flash or hybrid. They don't give a damn. What they do care about is, are you able to deliver time to value and speed to market and agility and data protection like the way they're expecting to do? Are you able to deliver innovation at the velocity that their customers are asking them to do? That's the context within which you need to think of Nutanix as a technology innovation provider, not as a vendor. A vendor will sell you something, come back 3 years later and charge you more for selling. A partner will be by your side, looking at your requirements, learn from you, go there, build something, and then come back and implement it with you. I don't personally think it is possible for vendors to continue to thrive and succeed. If you want to be in this business, you have to somehow evolve and become a technology innovation provider for you. Hopefully, after today, talking to our customers and partners, you will know that Nutanix has a potential to be that for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Satish. Thank you. And next, we have another top executive from San Jose, Mr. Anjan Srinivas, Nutanix Senior Director of Product Management. Now he's going to share with us his insight and experience to the journey of enterprise cloud.
Can you hear me? Yeah, this is better. Morning, everyone. We wanted to bring a surprise element to the show, so that was just a well-rehearsed drop of the mic, so hopefully it came out fine. Now, what we're going to do, Sudhish talked about a lot of changes in the world happening. We see it every day. We see it in each aspect of our life, all the way from the gadgets that we are using, all the way to how we kind of call our taxi cabs, or to the robot that's sitting in our homes and doing our vacuum cleaning at home. It change is happening all around us. And that change is also happening in the enterprise. Clearly, we are living in an era where IT discussions don't end without having a mention of cloud in that discussion, and how cloud is changing how people consume information, how they consume infrastructure. And we believe there is a place for it in both our private cloud side of the world and the public cloud side of the world. Clearly, a lot of our own data centers that you are running aspire to become cloud-like, but you're not there yet. And as clearly Sudhish was mentioning complexity, that complexity comes out of having a lot of siloed pieces of infrastructure that have come to your data centers over the last decade or so. And you have been building up in the hope to keep the lights on, but eventually it increases the amount of complexity that you have inherited, and now you're trying to make it transformed into more a cloud-like operation, and it's a journey for you as well. So when you start to look at these clouds, some of these clouds are more suitable for the elastic workloads, and some are more for predictable workloads. But the core of this thesis is that you need infrastructure that is intelligent, automatable, and also helps you bring down this complexity that's killing you silently. And that's what we have done so far, and built our enterprise cloud operating system that allows you to consume various form factors of hardware and public clouds and help you make your life a lot more simple by using our cloud operating system to run a single management plane that spans across all of your requirements in this multi-cloud era. Clearly, we are not in a world where we have a single kind of a cloud, just manage it and you're fine. There are various different cloud form factors that you are being exposed to on a day-to-day basis. One of the key things that we have done in the past is to be able to help you consume this technology, that what we built as a software-defined data center inspired by Google-like architectures. We have helped you consume this on a NUTANIX appliance for those of you who already use it. In the recent past, last 12-18 months, we have partnered with our OEM partners like Dell and Lenovo, and you can consume this technology as a packaged form factor that's available through their brands. And now, more recently, we have announced Cisco as one of the other platforms where you can take this software intelligence and run it in your data center. But at this point, we are happy to announce we have added HP to that overall mix, and we are going to be supporting the HP rack servers as well to start off with, and allow you to run the same simplicity of hyper-converged infrastructure and make your data centers available on this platform as well. And this is our transformation as we go and more cater to what you have been asking us to do. We have always known we are a software company. Our core IP is built in software. Our engineers are not hardware engineers who are designing ASICs and motherboards, but we are fundamentally writing software that can run on any architecture, any platform, supporting any hypervisor. And this allows us to give you the option to consume our software like software should be, both on a CapEx model, through large enterprise license agreements if you are large enough to run multi-data center environments, or through a rental model as well. So what this allows us to do is to be able to sell you these software entitlements, and those entitlements can transfer from one platform to another, giving you the choice and flexibility that you need to run your cloud managed service as an internal IT. So the other new thing that is coming out, as we are announcing with this event, is the ability for us to give you the license entitlements that are transferable from one platform to another, and also the enterprise license agreement. So we are fundamentally taking our core software IP and turning that into assets that you can consume through various different form factors. But all of this software intelligence relies on a few things that we really kind of want to build it upon. We believe in this concept of one operating system and an experience that is just one click. Now, clearly there are some workflows that are more than one click, but the simplicity is what we really want to kind of bring out with the name one click. So let's kind of go spend some time on some of the key new innovations that have happened, both on one operating system to one click. And maybe a lot of you here already know what our product does. You run it in your data centers, but there will be some who don't know, and I'll try to make sure that you get a fair understanding of what these innovations hold when it comes to what we have already built. So let's take a look at that. What does a single operating system mean? Anything that is one allows you to run any application with any deployment, all with choice and open approach. So let's look at any application. Most of you today are dealing with what you call the classic enterprise apps. These could be small test and dev environments, it could be VDI, it could be mission critical workloads such as SAP and Oracle. And those are core of your enterprise workloads. But slowly, more and more, there are newer applications also coming into your enterprise. But let's first talk about your enterprise grade applications that you really want to cater to. What do you need from an infrastructure so that you could comfortably, without having to worry and lose sleep, run your enterprise grade applications? We believe some of the key innovations that we have brought to you kind of can be categorized into 3 key themes. The first one is allowing you to do frictionless migration. I think the biggest barrier that holds people back is having to take that first step in saying, look, I already have this complicated system, but it runs. I'm going to keep it this way because it is hard to move. And what we are doing is to be able to eliminate that friction and make it easy for you to consume our technology. We'll also talk about performance, because once you have migrated, you don't want any compromises with performance, especially when it comes to your mission critical applications. And of course, it needs to be on. Now in this cloud era, we don't want things to go down and your pager needs to beep or your cell phone needs to go off in the middle of the night, and so it needs to be on. So let's take a look at what some of the key enhancements that we are bringing to you this year into the market. The first one being frictionless migration. The name migration itself kind of spells fear with a lot of IT teams. They can visualize months worth of work when they are doing any migration project. With this migration pain in mind, we are announcing 2 new products. The first one is called VM Extract. With this product, it is a simple single-click migration where you can take virtual machines running on your 3-tier legacy architecture and be able to migrate, and the system will do all the necessary software changes to that virtual machine and port it over to the hyperconverged infrastructure. The second product, which is also a very exciting one for us as we change the discussion from virtual machine-centric concepts to application-centric concepts, is to be able to bring to you database extract, where we are starting with SQL databases, and you will be able to scan these databases, understand what they are running and how much they are consuming, and bring them over to the hyperconverged side in the most efficient way possible using all the best practices. And all of this allowing you to provide with native encryption that you previously had to rely on self-encrypting drives, all in a secure fashion. So we are now able to present to you a very simple way to bring workloads from one environment to another without having to spend weeks and months trying to design, plan for something like this. Really, really powerful, and we'll actually be showing a demo for you as well. As we look at what we have done on the performance side, and performance is a continuous process. For those of you who have purchased our product any time before, and every time you load up our new software on it, you'll realize that you quickly get a boost in performance, and that's the power of software-defined anything, because as the software gets better and better on the same motherboard that you're running and the same drives that you're using in the system upgrades itself to a higher, better performance. But a lot of times we don't know how much performance is needed. And we are introducing this new tool called X-Ray, which allows you to really understand your real-world test requirements and be able to tell you how to put a diverse mix of workloads in your new environment, may it be VDI, may it be OLTP workloads. So this will really help you visualize the amount of performance that you really need and right-size your environment for that performance requirements so that you never fall short of it. So when you look at performance, the bottleneck arises from a couple of key areas. One typically is the storage bottleneck we are very, very, very aware of. The second one is the networking bottleneck. So in order to help solve for some of these bottlenecks, we are bringing to you the latest and the greatest technology that the market is offering in terms of NVMe. Flash was a big innovation. I think it solved a lot of performance issues. Hyperconvergence itself, as you brought the workload and the storage of Flash closer, it made performance a lot better because you did not have to go over the network. But now we are able to bring you storage at the speed of the motherboard bus, which is what NVMe really brings to you, and we are going to be able to offer that. The next step in this whole journey is to be able to reduce the bottlenecks with networking And that's where we are going to also enable RDMA technology on our product, giving you a new platform to operate, which has both the NVMe and RDMA built in, and that's going to be our NUTANIX appliance 9030 that we are announcing here. But again, all the magic is in the software, and you will be able to consume that software on various different form factors beyond just our own appliance. So stay tuned for more hardware options that come your way, but fundamentally the software is now ready to take on NVMe and RDMA. The other key bottleneck outside of the traditional things like networking and storage comes fundamentally from the hypervisor. Hypervisor over time has become a single point choking block for the architecture, making it hard for you to really stress that layer a lot more, because hypervisors start to become slow because they're doing too many things in the middle. When we really brought AHV, which is our own hypervisor, which is the invisible layer that we want to bring it lightweight but secure, we had an opportunity to redefine what virtualization layer needs to look like in this hyper-converged environment. And as we have made progress, we are now announcing a new feature called AHV Turbo Mode, where it really kind of minimizes the layers of hypervisor that the packet needs to hit in order to perform. So as you eliminate the complexity of the layers in the hypervisor, you're able to get better performance for your applications, and that's what we are doing with AHV Turbo Mode. And now combined with NVMe and RDMA, AHV stack will look much faster for your mission critical applications, especially for those performance hungry applications. But as it all comes down to keeping your job to this always on, and only when a disaster happens, most people realize that their DR plans were not ready, or they were not working, or they should have actually had a DR plan. And that's where our simple single-click data protection comes in. Data protection has been a key aspect of our product for a while. We have had zero RPO technologies in the product built in, also 60-minute RPO technologies built into the product as well. But there are clearly customers who are asking us to give them a third tier, which is probably somewhere between a minute and 15 minutes, where their applications need to have protection for that duration and have lower RPO times. With that in mind, we are introducing a newer capability which is more near sync like, to allow you to be able to get lower RPOs for your applications that need so. And we have now worked a lot with a lot of different backup vendors to integrate their backup software onto this platform as well. Now, so you not just have the option of using the native AHV backup, but if you wanted to use the traditional vendor that you were using, may it be Veritas or Veeam or any of the vendor of your choice, we now have partnership with them where their software is going to be integrated on our platform and available to you for you to be able to use the same backup mechanisms for your archival of your files. So really a lot of new work around migration, DR, as well as performance has gone in. There are many other features I'm not exposing here today, but you will hear a lot more of our feature set that are coming out in the breakout sessions as well. So definitely go look them out, and also in the demo areas you will be able to see them live. But there are a few key things we wanted to show you, and at this point I would like to invite Mr. Patrick Chan to come show us a demo, because seeing is more fun than a lot of slideware talk here. So Patrick, good morning, how are you doing?
Yes, I'm good. Yeah.
So what are you going to show us today?
Okay, so the first thing I would like to show is how we can migrate a Microsoft SQL database onto the NUTANIX platform with simple SumCat.
Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, we have to log in into our DB extract tools. Okay.
So waiting for it to load up. So
Yeah.
basically this DB extract is a product that I talked about for frictionless migration.
Yeah. Okay.
What are we seeing here today then?
Yeah, so this is the interface of our DB extract. And basically, it will help us to do 4 tasks. The first thing it has to do will be to discover our SQL environment. So what I have to do now is simply to create a new project. So maybe I give a name, next live demo for Hong Kong. Okay. And then the next thing I have to do, of course, is we have to specify the database if we would like to migrate onto the NUTANIX platform. So we have two ways to do. First of all, of course, you can enter all your database information in here one by one. But of course, we can also upload it by an Excel file. So I've prepared an Excel file in here with all the database which I would like to migrate onto our platform. So I simply click upload. Then you can see the database information is already populated in here. So what next I have to do is simply do a scan of the database. So I click the begin scan button.
So basically what you're doing is if you had to scan a multiple set of databases, you put it in an Excel file, gave the IP address, username, password, and you're scanning a whole bunch of SQL database. But maybe in this case, you just have a database that you're scanning to show here as a demo.
Yes, absolutely. So you can see the scanning is very fast, and during the scanning, it discovers a Microsoft SQL Server database and on a Microsoft Windows Server 2012 OS. And we can also see the CPU and the memory configuration of this physical SQL Server. And more importantly, and also discover the number of database within this database server. If we click over the database tab, actually we can see there are 5 databases in here. And one of the database, the name is DB01, which is a customer database. And we click over the database, we can also see the database size and also the existing performance information of this database. For example, the memory usage, the read and write hour of this database, and even the data files and the logs file of this database as well.
So basically this scan has really allowed you to get a deeper dive into what this database looks like, the disk layout, the consumption of resources, all of that stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Excellent. So what's next after we know about our database?
Yeah, so what next is we have to generate a design. We have to generate and decide which is the most optimal state for running on the NUTANIX. So to do so, it's very simple. You don't need to do it manually. You simply need to just one click. We just need to click the Generate Design button. So the DB extractor will generate an optimal design for this database. So if we click over the name of the database, you will see it will recommend you to put this database onto NUTANIX with the inline compression being turned on. And it will also recommend you the amount of CPU and the memory assignment for the OS to run this database. And most importantly will be the disk assignments, because according to the best practice, we should split the disk into multiple disks to run your database system.
So basically, you have now created a design that would take typically admins weeks before they figure out how much the consumption is, what storage features to turn on, what should be the VM size, what should be the memory overcommit if whatever, and it would have taken a lot of those things out of the guesswork and really created a simple design for them to use.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so that's good. So you have saved them some time, but what does it take to migrate now?
Yeah, so sure, I'll say. So before we do the migration, of course, we need to deploy the virtual machine, right? We have to deploy the virtual machine, apply the best practice recommended in here, and then install the SQL Server and apply the best practice. But the good news is you don't need to do it manually because we will help you to do it. So we simply go back to click the back button, and then we can go to the deploy phase. Okay? So actually, in the deployment phase, we will help you to clone a VM template from your hypervisor, from AHV or from VMware, and then we will also do the best practice setting. For example, add the disk into the operating system, and then we will also mount the Microsoft SQL Server ISO and should do the SQL Server installation. So because the migration will take some time, so we will show you a completed project.
Okay, that sounds good. We don't have time to wait for this data to migrate. So
this is a project we have completed recently. So you can see actually in this project we have already completed the deployment phase. So let's take a look of the deployment results. So this is the deployment results, which you can see it has already completed. And actually during the deployment phase, there are 39 tasks being completed. Just as one of the sets, it will also help you to create the data store on our storage, and then it will clone the VM template from your hypervisor, and we will also mount the SQL Server ISO to do the SQL Server installation. And most importantly, it will also apply all the best practice recommended by NUTANIX For example, setting the maximum memory to be assigned to the SQL Server, and also turning on some trade flags, and also some group policy setting on the Windows OS.
All right, so you really took a lot of 39 different tasks that would have been done by the admin, shrunk it down, we migrated it, it's all good. What else do we show after this?
Okay, so after the deployment of the virtual machine onto NUTANIX, so it's simply we just need to do the cutover. Yeah.
Okay.
So we just need to go back to here, and then we can do the migration.
Okay, that's good. So migration is great. So I think a big round of applause for pulling it off. So, you know, the Hong Kong crowd is tough. You got to show them something more easy, something more exciting. They won't kind of give you a big applaud if you don't show them something nice. What else can you show us?
Okay, I think the next one I would like to demonstrate will be our one-click data protection.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So now we have the database, but we are also concerning on the DR things. So what I'm going to show next is how we can do the disaster protection, disaster recovery for the database. So to do so, we just need to log into our Pizza Management Console. Okay. So this is our Pizza Management Console, and you can see this is an H3 cluster, and there are 19 VM in here, and they are all running. So we are generating about 8,000 of IOPS, but we are having a very good latency because it's even below 1 millisecond. Okay, so let's see how we can do the data protection for our database server. So to do so, I just need to go to the data protection tab. And then in here, we will have to new a protection domain. So if you are new to NUTANIX, so basically the protection domain is the replication policy. And in here, you can see we already have a protection policy in here in protecting a full SQL Server database.
Okay.
Okay. And we also have a predefined schedule for this full database. We are talking about having an RPO of 60 minutes, 1 hour.
So that works for a lot of people. 60 minutes is a normal RPO time. A lot of people are happy with it. But as we said, we are going to shrink it down to really much more tighter RPOs. So how do we go ahead and do that?
So actually, it is extremely very simple to do so. So to do so, we simply need to edit the schedule in here, and then we can change the RPO which we want. So how about 10 minutes?
Oh no, man, this crowd is tough. I think if you don't show them 1 minute, they're not going to be happy. What do you guys say?
Okay.
1 minute.
1 minute? Do you want 1 minute?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 minute. Okay, so 1 minute is very simple. You simply change it from 10 minutes to 1 minute.
Take a 0 out. That's easy.
Yeah. Since our data protection is based on a snapshot, so we will also specify the number of snapshots to be kept in the local site, and also the number of snapshots to be kept in the remote site. That is your DR sites. So basically, now I will ask the customer to maintain 1 day of snapshot for both the local site and the DR sites. So basically, we are done. We just need to click save, and then the customer will have us to take the snapshot and transport it to the remote sites.
All right, so that's how simple it is. Now you're done, and we should start taking snapshots every minute.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much, Patrick.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
So you saw how easy it was to kind of run enterprise applications at the highest performance with highest protection. And you can do that. You don't have to do any compromises when you're doing developer-friendly, new cloud-native apps, what they call as Mode 2 apps. And NUTANIX really provides you the single platform to run both your enterprise-grade applications as well as developer-friendly applications. With that in mind, we have announced the Acropolis Container Services that will now allow you to run a volume driver and support Dockers in case you wanted to provide your developers in a container environment and give them the choice to develop in the newer modes that are coming up in the infrastructure world. So I think really allowing you future-proofing of your technology that now you can use both for your enterprise-grade applications, but you're also developer-friendly applications. We've also been working on more than just allowing you to run virtual machines. We have been working on what we call the Acropolis Filer Services, which is very simple to deploy, and now we are announcing support for NFS, which will be coming into the product shortly as well. So giving you a large footprint of NUTANIX, which can not just run virtual machines, but also departmental shares and filers. Clearly having a single unified software-defined infrastructure to your rescue. And if you see, a lot of these have similarities to what you see in the likes of Amazon. Amazon has EFS, we have AFS. Amazon has ECS, their container service, we have Acropolis container service. And it's clearly by design that we want to allow your data center to run like an Amazon data center without you having to spend all the time and R&D to build such data centers with development. We bring that to your data centers. Now then, let's go to the other aspect, which is any deployment. And I think more and more so, we are all working in a very dispersed environment, a lot of branch offices. And in the past, it has been always a challenge to simply manage your branch office because I think number one, the management plane was different, and then the form factor of and the reliability of the infrastructure that you put in the branch was also in question. With that in mind, we are now announcing both single node and dual node options for branch offices, allowing you to simply manage your branches from the same Prism console that you saw and be able to push updates, software upgrades, as well as DR and protection policies all through the single pane of glass to your branch as well. So not just your main data center, but your branches will also be now covered through the same approach. And Nutanix has always been about customer choice. We will not restrict you on the way you want to consume things or the way you want to see the form factor come into your data center. So we have had Community Edition and Nutanix appliances and appliances from our OEM partners, but now we will be able to consume our software, like I mentioned before, on Cisco and HP platforms as well, and go through different models of payments and consumptions that you can use. So clearly, Nutanix is the only vendor in the industry who is giving you choice not just about server platforms, the hypervisors, but the consumption models, and more recently, we have started to support the power architecture from IBM. This was a joint strategic announcement between IBM and Nutanix, where we are going to support power servers as well, starting off with Linux, but later moving on to AIX, and you will see a lot of innovation coming on that front as well. So truly the power of software, allowing you to do cross-platform things and allowing you to consume with any of these dimensions of your choice, instead of us telling you how it should work in your data center, you're able to get all the intelligence in the same open way that you have seen. But all of this, web scale architecture that we have brought in software is good, but I think we take real pride in the control plane that we have built, which is really simple to use. And Prism Central is one of our key marquee control plane consoles, which really helps you manage multiple clusters dispersed over data centers and branch offices, all in the single pane of glass. With that in mind, we are announcing a single-click deployment for Prism Central. And of course, as your systems grow, we will also be able to scale out Prism Central, and it is not going to be a single point of failure ever. And so Prism Central now really becomes your core go-to console for all the intelligence that you want to consume. And one of the key intelligence features that we are building in is networking. Last year, we announced network visibility inside Prism, where you could actually go in and look at the top of rack port that the server was connected to, the VLAN configuration, the port errors, and a whole bunch of networking parameters to give you the simplicity of seeing one console to troubleshoot when something went wrong with your application. And now we are going to introduce one-click native microsegmentation built into our platform, where you will be able to group your applications in security groups where your traffic does not go past that security group, allowing you to prevent malicious attacks, antivirus attacks, and many other security attacks that you typically see when your east-west traffic is not protected. So AHV will bring to you the native capability to do micro-segmentation, but we are also working with a whole bunch of partners in the industry who you will be able to use to integrate into our system if you wanted a specialist networking vendor to be able to run on Nutanix as well. So we are going to again give you choice with networking, and you will be able to use the choice of vendor if you did not feel that our native capabilities were enough. And truly, I think infrastructure is a boring topic because people just don't want to see infrastructure. mostly everybody here cares about application. And that's where Nutanix Calm fits in. It's our self-service portal with a built-in marketplace, allowing you to consume applications instead of having to spin up virtual machines. So what you will see Calm do, which is our application-driven orchestration engine, is to allow you to consume a marketplace where you can publish your applications and your teams can then go and deploy these applications through a single simple click. And as you kind of do this, you don't have to make choices between what cloud you want to run it in. The system is going to be intelligent, where based on your SLAs, based on your cost, it's going to be able to find out which is the right cloud to deploy your application into, and by allowing you to really find visibility into the best cloud for your application, all through simple click to deploy and a single click to migrate, we will be able to provide you the choice that you really need for choosing the right cloud for the right workload. And that's where I think I would like to invite Patrick again, because seeing Calm is more fun than actually showing it on slideware. So Patrick, do you have a Calm setup ready for us? We need to really wow this audience with the marketplace and application-centric infrastructure.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Okay, so let us go to the Prism Central. So this Prism Central interface, and then
So it's the same interface that has all the goodness built in that we have always talked about from a Prism perspective, and that becomes also the home for a Calm now.
Yeah, sure. So if we would like to use the Calm, we simply go to the application tab in here.
Okay.
And the first thing I would like to show will be our marketplace. So just as Angela mentioned before, the marketplace will be the app store for your IT team to publish the application. So in here, you can see there are lots of open source applications, for example, Hadoop, Kubernetes, and also some enterprise applications like SQL Server and Oracle.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe now I would like to deploy a cluster, a Hadoop cluster.
Why not?
So, yeah, sure.
Is it going to take hours or it's going to be quick?
It's very fast.
Okay.
So it just takes about 5 minutes.
Okay.
So to do so, I just simply need to have a click on the Hadoop in here, and then I could see the description for this Hadoop environment. So basically, the Hadoop version will be this one, and it will require this license. And you can see actually the application is available on different platforms, including on Nutanix, on the Google Cloud, and also on AWS.
Okay.
And here we will also show you the hardware requirement. That's the VM requirements to run this Hadoop cluster.
Okay.
So if we would like to deploy it, so it's very simple. We simply need to click the launch button in here.
Okay.
So I just need to give a name. And then I can specify the cloud I want. So which cloud do you want today?
I would have said AHV, but I think since we announced a strategic partnership with Google, why don't we deploy it on Google?
Yeah, so it's very simple. So we simply need to click Google Cloud Platform in here, and then we just need to click the Create button, and then the Hadoop cluster will be deployed onto the Google Cloud within 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what if my application is not in the marketplace? You know, many of our customers here have their own custom applications, or they may want to go change these blueprints that are existing available to cater to their needs.
Sure, don't worry. Actually, the blueprint is very simple. So we just need to go to the blueprint tab, and then we will provide you with a visual policy editor to create your blueprint. So for example, I would like to create a new blueprint now. So you will see it's a graphical user interface, and then I can add the VM I need for this blueprint. So basically, for example, I need 2 VM in this blueprint. And then I can also define the relationship between the blueprint as well.
So you can either take an existing blueprint and edit it, or you can take a brand new blueprint, and it's very simple to create a few VMs and give relationships and provide those parameters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but then how much infrastructure I am consuming, and what are the bills I expect from Amazon or Google? That's my biggest worry. How do I monitor what's happening in my system?
One of the good things for Calm is we will also report you the consumption on the cloud. So in this page, actually, you can see over the last 30 days, the actual consumption on different clouds, on Google, on Azure, AWS, and also on Nutanix. Okay? And in addition, we will also show you the budget being consumed by each project team as well.
All right, so you can now really control the budget of this team once you provide them an access and see how much you're going to be spending.
Yeah, sure.
Excellent, Patrick. Thank you so much for your demo.
Thank you.
And this really will, I think this will really change the way we see infrastructure, more application-centric. And not just this, not just deploying applications, you will be able to control the life cycle management. If you wanted to scale out an application, increase the capacity, all of those things Calm will bring to you. Clearly, what Calm brought to you was what an iTunes was, and from a marketplace perspective. You go to your app store, download the application, you get it up and going, and that's the iTunes. But there is another key feature in Apple that I really love, and maybe in other versions of smartphones as well, which is the iCloud. And iCloud really allows you to back up your photos and stuff with a single click. I just turn it on and make sure my photos that I'm taking when I'm in Hong Kong of the Harbor Bay goes to the cloud. I don't have to worry about where it is stored. Now it's all protected somewhere in the cloud, and when I start showing my wife, it already shows up. I don't have to worry about storage and whatnot. On the same sense, we are actually building Xi cloud services, and the first cloud service that we are going to bring to market is going to be a Xi disaster recovery service. Now, clearly, it starts off in the US next year and trickles down to other parts of the world as we make progress with Google and hosted with Google. But the key is that we really make it simple for you. Instead of you having to go procure another site and make sure you have runbooks, you have all the preparation, you have the infrastructure, you have the manpower to deal with it, you can go click on some of the virtual machines inside Prism and say protect on Xi, and those virtual machines will be protected on our cloud service, which can be instantiated when a failure of this virtual machine environment happens, and that's how simple it is. So as you can see, we are really trying to build a holistic end-to-end stack that comprises of many different dimensions, all through a single operating system spanning multiple different clouds, all through a simple one-click, but also giving you the choice of what you want to consume our software on. May it be appliances, may it be partners with GCP, AWS as your cloud choices, or with Dell, Lenovo as our OEM partners. We'll give you the choice really to provide you the best possible option and the economics to consume our software. So hopefully you are able to learn a lot more about this software in all the experience booths that we have set up, and through interactions I'm going to be around. I look to talk to some of you and understand your pain points and help you out as well. But hope this was useful to you, and thank you, and have a great show, guys. Bye.
Thank you, Anjan. Thank you. Now, later on, we'll have Nutanix partners and customers to discuss their insights on the future of enterprise cloud. But right now, we're going to take a short break, and light refreshments are prepared for you right outside. And also, please feel free to visit our booths, which are right outside and right next to this room, and check out the 360 VR experiences, and view the demonstrations and discuss any IT matters or cloud issues with our staff and partners. And remember to get stickers for your booth passport. Return a completed passport at the end of the event. A souvenir will be given to you as a token of appreciation. We're going to take about a 15 minutes break, and we'll see you around 11:10.